Bună ziua, doamnelor și domnilor! Începem anul cu un interviu special pe Calea Europeană. Sunt multe momente în istoria Uniunii Europene, dar unele cu o încărcătură deosebită, cum ar fi prietenia franco-germană. Good afternoon, everybody. We have today together with us the French ambassador to Romania, Mrs. Laurence Sauer. Thank you for this interview, Madam Ambassador. And we have also together with us Mr. Ambassador Per, the ambassador of the Republic Federal of Germany to Romania. Thank you very much for this interview for CaleaEuropeana. It's a pleasure to be hosted by you on such an important occasion, because we are at 1 year of war of Russia in Ukraine, but there are also moments of celebration in Europe. And one moment, the reconciliation between France and Germany is one of them. And today we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Élysée Treaty, but also the 4th anniversary of the Aachen Treaty that put Germany and France together in a partnership for Europe. And I would like to go to the first question. And today, when we think of Germany and France, we think to the powerhouse of the European Union. Not just in terms of influence in the EU decision-making process, but also in terms of that the European unity we cherish and benefit from nowadays would not have been possible without the German-French reconciliation. Where does the 60th anniversary of the Élysée Treaty and also the 4th anniversary of the Aachen Treaty find the German-French partnership and the European Union as a whole?
Thank you very much for inviting us both. It's a symbol that we can have a shared interview with CaleaEuropeana. It's also a symbol that we can do it today with this 60th anniversary of the Élysée Treaty. Today we have in the Élysée again ministers, we have also the president, the chancellor, and it's never been as important to show that reconciliation and action following reconciliation is possible. In my view today in Europe, it's all the more important that we can show exactly what is built by France and Germany together concretely to the citizens. It's true, it's a new treaty that we have since 2019 with plenty of actions, but today for France we wanted to focus on topics somehow security, but also industry, action, climate change, and the youth, because we thought that we needed to invest in new perspective altogether and to build on those topics which are key to the continent, an agreement between those two founding fathers of the EU.
Well, yes, because we all remember maybe from history that when we think about the European Union, the, let's say, photo chronicle of the European Union shows Chancellor Konrad Adenauer and President de Gaulle shaking hands for the future of Europe that we are living here today. But of course, the main topic that drives the international agenda is Russia's brutal and illegal war against Ukraine. 1 year after, a lot had happened and major decisions were taken at EU and transatlantic level, despite one another arguing that Berlin and Paris were previously not convinced that Russia will invade. What can the EU, Germany and France further do to help Ukraine, while also keeping in mind that 2023 is the year that precedes the 2024 elections, and the EU has its own internal challenges to address? Do you envisage a how long as it takes approach to help Ukraine, or a more balanced one?
I do expect a clear continuation of the how long it takes and whatever it takes approach that we have taken as an EU, as France and Germany. And this is the case because it's not only in the interest of Ukraine, it's in our own interest to make sure that Ukraine will win and be victorious in regaining control over its own territory. You're right, this brutal Russian aggression against Ukraine that we witness every day came as a shock to all of us, but it also provoked a very strong and united answer. A united answer, of course, that we continue to have to work for. It's not for granted, and that's why you're fully correct in asking, you know, how do you position yourself, what do you expect to see in the shaping of our reaction. But again, as we all are convinced and we realized that it's our values and our freedom at stake as well on the battlefield in Ukraine, I am very confident that we will continue to do whatever it takes and as long as it takes. 2024 indeed will have many interesting developments, elections coming up on the European level, and let's, well, first of all, have a look at 2023, where I feel a lot of decisions will be made, and this will be a decisive time ahead of us, and that's why it's so important to continue to forge a strong answer.
Yes, Madam Ambassador, we all know that 2023 has already begun with, let's say, good signs for Europe and also for the transatlantic cooperation. NATO and the EU have signed a new joint declaration for cooperation, stated that NATO is the cornerstone for Euro-Atlantic security and defense, while recognizing the added value that the European defense has for the European security as a whole. And we know that this subject is promoted tirelessly by France, a country that these days also anniversaries 1 year since President Macron announced that will lead the NATO presence here in Romania. But what does it mean, this NATO-EU cooperation within also the European defense for the European security architecture, while also having in mind the Russian war in Ukraine?
It is a very important statement, because in this context of war, in this context where we seek unity, solidarity, it was important to express this cooperation between NATO and EU in a kind of a concrete statement. You know, we've been working during 2022 on what we call the compass. It was a document which we worked at the EU level and approved by European Council in March. In this view of the military and security challenges, we identified the challenges such as cybersecurity, which are civilian as well as military. If you look at the question of satellites, of drones, etc., we all know that today the threats we face are maybe dealt by NATO, but also that we have to have global answers. And at the same time, the NATO summit approved its strategic document with the recognition of the role of Eastern Europe, the role of the Black Sea in this new context. And I think it is very important that we liaise. There is no fight. There is only the necessity to be able to very quickly answer with a single answer towards the threats, and also to the new neighborhood. I mean, the EU has launched this démarche in the Prague 7th of October with the European political community, which aimed at being a political discussion with the members that are inside the EU but also outside. And it's quite also important that all those, in this geopolitical context which has so much change in 1 year, which is so threatful, which is so dangerous, very near from us, that we have this answer, a quick answer, no questioning of who does what, etc.
Thank you. Mr. Ambassador, 2023 is also a year of anniversary when we think of the single market, of the Maastricht Treaty, of the Nice Treaty, treaties and moments that prepared Europe for its further integration, reconciling East and West. And recently, last year, Chancellor Scholz said that we are now seeing the movement of the center of gravity of Europe towards Eastern Europe. And he also spoke about the unanimity rule in order to try to diminish it. And we started this year with a reference from Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock on this topic, saying that she actually regrets because sometimes we cannot agree on joint press releases because of this unanimity rule, a unanimity rule that is very well, let's say, safeguarded in eastern countries like Poland, like Romania, like the Baltic countries. But do you feel that is there a room for a debate on this sensitive topic, or given the opposition from other countries, we can consider it as a safeguard, let's say, of national interests in the European Union?
I strongly believe there's room for debate, and this debate is already going on, because the vast majority of all member states, of course, realizes that there is a reform need. Now, of course, for example, a smaller member state, being a member of the European Union should not go along with the fear of being overruled all the time, of being left out of decision-making process. So there's a value that every voice is heard, and every single member state has a very strong vote to give. So this is important, and this will remain an important pillar of our European decision-making scheme. On the other hand, as you've pointed out in your question, there are more and more situations where we realize this anonymity rule comes to its limits, and we just are not able to act anymore. And if we picture ourselves in a situation with even more member states, and we do want to push the enlargement agenda in that sense, the need for finding better ways of decision making is clearly there. There are various ways and instruments to address this. We can broaden the scope of majority voting in some areas without changing the treaties, and I think this is something where the discussion is now mainly focused on. Then, of course, you can broaden the scheme even further by changing the treaties. This is always an uphill battle, and certainly not something coming around in the next month. But the clear understanding that one country being able to block the rest is not an ideal situation. I think this understanding has broadened, and that's why I remain confident that we will see progress in the field of voting in the EU in the months and years to come.
And maybe there will be a topic of a debate considering the EU 2024 elections, because there will be a very important year next year. In 2022 also, here in the European Union, we took major decisions, and Germany and France, together also with Romania, played important roles, because one day before the European Commission announcing its opinion that Moldova and Ukraine should be granted EU candidate status, President Macron, Chancellor Scholz, together with Prime Minister Draghi and President Iohannis, were in Kyiv, and 1 week later the European Union granted that EU candidate status for Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova. Also, France and Germany, together with Romania, did a lot more for the Republic of Moldova, creating this platform of support. What can France, Germany, and Romania do even more for the Republic of Moldova? Is there a possibility to have maybe a decision this year to open chapters of negotiation? Because we already saw Republic of Moldova doing a lot of reforms, and also they will host the European Political Community Summit in the 1st of June.
Yes, we are very proud, France and Germany, to be at really the head of this movement with Romania. We are co-chairing. It was the 3rd edition in France after it took place in Bucharest of the Moldova platform. It's going to be the next one in Moldova, in Chișinău. And as well, we are preparing the summit of the European political community there. We are proud as well of the political decision, because it was not only granting this candidate status to Ukraine and Moldova, it was also a starting point, as you say, of a lot of work. Now the work is in under the responsibility of Moldova. They should prepare a list of state of reforms they are doing, and it's not a small work, as you know. It takes time, but it's true that we are going to help the government. We are all in this situation be ready to help. I'm also proud because at the same time we pushed the opening of the negotiation with Albania and Northern Macedonia of North. And it was also important because, you know, if you take the enlargement topic as a whole, it was including for Romania, for Schengen, the enlargement of NATO. It was also a geopolitical response to what happens to Ukraine and to the recognition of what we want to be, what we want to do together. That's why, as a whole, in June, those elements were key. I must add as well that in December we have also decided to grant this status, the same status, to Bosnia. So, as a whole, Western Balkans and Moldova, Ukraine, the borders are not let aside. Every country, every state has its own agenda, and I feel the responsibility of France and Germany on both cases were evident, you know, because as France we were chairing the Council of the EU, and we were gathering the positions to get this decision, and we of course are going to do the same for until Romania joins Schengen, of course.
Well, seeing your answer, I must confess the fact that speaking about helping Moldova and Ukraine, speaking about joint EU-NATO cooperation, also helping Ukraine fight this war, I think that it's very important that 60 years ago we had this Élysée Treaty having Germany and France together within this partnership. And one final question. We all know that it has a special sensitivity for Romania because we all hoped that from January 1st, 2023, Romania would have been a part of Schengen, and our national efforts towards this goal were somehow fueled by the support that we received both from France and Germany. We all recall the speech of former Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian in the Romanian Parliament supporting Romania. We remember the speech of Chancellor Scholz in Prague supporting Romania, Bulgaria and Croatia also accessing into Schengen. But Austria had a different opinion, and we received a veto instead. How can we overcome this deadlock this year? And can you say if the support of Germany and France for Romania's accession into Schengen will remain undiminished and ironclad as it was last year?
I can assure you that our support, and I'm sure I'm speaking here also on behalf of Laurence and the French government, that our joint support for Schengen accession of Romania will remain steadfast and unwaveringly. We have been actively supporting enlargement of Schengen area, and we were also as disappointed as you were by the fact that we were not able to achieve this result at the last Justice and Home Affairs Council in December. I tell you why our support will remain as it is, because it's not only in the interest of Romania, of the Romanian people, to become part of the Schengen family. It's in our interest, it's in the European interest. There is this geopolitical angle. Laurence has just touched upon it with regard to enlargement. The same is true for Schengen enlargement. In times of crisis, it's even more important to join together and to open up to one another. And it has a very practical relevance, for example, when it comes to help flowing through Romania towards Ukraine, or the other way around, exports from Ukraine, which are facilitated through Romania, at the point in time when we can hopefully put more emphasis on reconstruction in Ukraine. Again, it's of utmost importance to have open borders, to have a free flow of goods, of support, of help. And that's why it's in our interest. And I'll give you a second reason why it's in our interest. Romania has proven itself to be always a very constructive partner of ours in the EU, in NATO, never blocking decisions, always being one of those countries that are part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I think we need more Romanias in that endeavor in the EU. And it's just not fair not to grant Romania what it deserves and what it has a right to get. Romania has fulfilled all the conditions for being a member, and that's why we have now to deliver, we, the EU, the member states. You're asking, is there room for achieving this goal? I believe there is. The discussions are going on, and of course there are several layers that are relevant in this aspect. And of course, for Austria, the issue of migration was an important one. We'll have a special European Council meeting in February, also focusing on migration issues. Let's see how we can move things ahead there so that there will be a bridge to cross and a way to open the Schengen area also for Romania and Bulgaria in that sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
I could not say differently. What I can add is that with a lot of soldiers' material transiting, humanitarian aid transiting from Romania, we have this initiative which is called Solidarity Corridors, where the grain of Ukraine is transiting from Romania. It is very, very important that the fluidity of the borders and the circulation of goods can be eased and through the Schengen accession. I am backed, I'm sure this position is backed by our companies. France is the second investor in Romania. They are losing money every day by the absence of accession to Schengen. So you have our both business communities backing as well the objective. So the sooner the better. And the two countries backing unconditionally Romania towards the accession.
Well, I think that's a very powerful statement coming at the 60th anniversary of the Élysée Treaty as a sign of friendship to Romania. Thank you very much. Madame l'ambassadrice, merci beaucoup pour cet entretien. Herr Botschafter, vielen Dank für dieses Interview. And happy anniversary of the French and German partnership.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for all what you do.
Thank you.